He stood by the entrance every morning at 6 a.m., wearing a blue vest that was 2 sizes too large and a smile that most people never bothered to return. "Good morning. Welcome to Walmart. Have a great day." The words came automatically, delivered to hundreds of shoppers who rushed past without acknowledgement. To them, he was invisible, part of the store, as unremarkable as the shopping carts or the automatic doors. But Harold Morrison wasn't unremarkable. And on this cold Tuesday morning in November, the 3 men who walked through those doors with guns in their jackets were about to discover exactly who they'd chosen to ignore. Before we dive into this story of patience, expertise, and the power of staying calm when everyone else is losing control, tell me in the comments from which city are you watching this video today. And if you believe that the most dangerous situations require the quietest voices, hit that subscribe button. Because what happens next will show you why experience doesn't need to shout to be heard. Harold Morrison was 71 years old, retired for 9 years, widower for 6. His children lived in different states, visited twice a year if he was lucky. His days used to stretch endlessly. Too much time, too much silence, too many memories of a career that had defined him for over 2 decades. So when the local Walmart posted a help wanted sign for a part-time greeter, Harold applied. Not because he needed the money, though the extra income helped, but because he needed a reason to wake up in the morning. Needed human interaction, even if it was just saying hello to strangers who didn't say hello back. The job interview lasted 10 minutes. The manager, a woman in her 30s named Beth, asked basic questions. Had he worked retail before? Was he comfortable standing for long periods? Could he start next week? Harold answered honestly. No retail experience. Yes, he could stand. And yes, he could start tomorrow if needed. Beth hired him on the spot. She never asked about his previous career. Never looked too closely at the 22-year gap in his resume marked simply as federal service. And Harold never volunteered the information, because the truth was complicated, and most people wouldn't believe it anyway. Harold Morrison had spent 22 years with the Federal Bureau of Investigation, not as a field agent chasing criminals through dark alleys, not as an undercover operative infiltrating criminal organizations. Harold had worked in crisis negotiation, hostage situations, barricaded suspects, kidnappings, suicide interventions, situations where one wrong word could end a life, where tone mattered more than tactics, where patience was more powerful than force. He talked down armed bank robbers, convinced kidnappers to release children, spent 19 hours on the phone with a man threatening to jump from a bridge. He'd worked cases that made national news and cases that never left the case file. He'd saved lives that the people involved would never know was saved. Because the best negotiations were the ones where nothing happened, where violence was avoided so smoothly that it seemed like there was never any danger at all. He'd retired in 2014 with commendations, letters of appreciation, a pension, and a skill set that most people would never need. Or so he thought. Harold had been working at Walmart for 8 months when it happened. 8 months of standing by the door, greeting customers, helping elderly shoppers find their carts, giving directions to the restroom. Simple work, honest work, work that most people his age would find boring. But Harold had learned long ago that boredom was underrated, that quiet days were gifts, that the most important skill in crisis management was recognizing when a crisis was about to begin. And on this particular Tuesday morning, he recognized the signs immediately. 3 men entered the store at 7:18 a.m. Early, but not suspiciously so. Plenty of people shopped before work, but Harold noticed details. The first man, mid-20s, wore a heavy jacket despite the store's warmth. His hands stayed in his pockets. His eyes moved constantly, scanning exits, cameras, staff positions. The second man, slightly older, walked 3 steps behind. Same heavy jacket, same restless eyes, Same tension in his shoulders. The third man stayed near the entrance, positioned himself by the seasonal display. Watching the door, Harold's greeting came out automatically. "Good morning, gentlemen." The first man didn't respond, didn't even look at him, just kept walking toward the back of the store. The second man followed. The third stayed put. Harold's hand moved to his radio. Not obviously, just a casual adjustment of his vest. But he keyed the MIC twice. 2 clicks. The code that something felt wrong. In the manager's office, Beth heard the clicks. She'd been trained on the signals. 2 clicks meant watch. 3 meant call police. She pulled up the security cameras, watched the 3 men on the monitors, saw what Harold saw, and reached for a phone. The first man stopped in electronics, approached the counter where a young employee, maybe 19, was unpacking iPads. The man pulled a gun. Small, black, held low so customers wouldn't see. But the employee saw. His face went white. His hands went up. "Open the cabinet," the man said quietly. Now, the second man moved to the front registers, pulled his own weapon, told the cashiers to empty their drawers. No alarms, no heroes, just the money. The third man, still by the entrance, pulled his gun and turned to face the store. Crowd control. And that's when he noticed Harold, still standing by the door, hands visible, no sudden movements, just an old man in a blue vest. "You," the third man said. "Get over here." Harold walked toward him slowly, calm, unthreatening. His mind was already working, assessing. 3 subjects, armed, coordinated, probably desperate, probably scared. Fear made people unpredictable, but it also made them negotiable. "So," Harold said quietly, "my name is Harold. What's yours?" "Shut up," the man snapped. "Get on the ground." Harold didn't move, didn't argue, just maintained eye contact. "I can do that, but first, can I ask you something?" I said, "Get down." "I will," Harold said. His voice was steady, calm. "But I'm 71. My knees aren't great. If I get down, I might need help getting back up. Is that okay?" The man blinked, confused by the question, by the lack of fear, by the conversational tone. "Whatever. Just sit down." "Shut up," Harold Saturday, slowly, his back against the wall, hands visible on his knees. From this position, he could see the entire entrance, could see customers starting to realize something was wrong, could see the 2 other gunmen moving through the store, and he could see the third man's hand shaking. "You seem nervous," Harold said quietly. "This your first time?" The man turned on him. "I told you to shut up." "I know," Harold said, "and I will. But you seem like someone who didn't want to be here today. Like maybe this wasn't your plan." The man's gun hand trembled. "You don't know anything about me." "You're right," Harold agreed. "I don't. But I know scared when I see it. And you're scared. So am I. We are both scared. Which means we are on the same side." "That doesn't make sense," the man said. "Sure it does," Harold replied. "You don't want to hurt anyone. I don't want anyone to get hurt. Same goal." The man stared at him. "Who the hell are you?" "Just a greeter," Harold said. "But I'm also someone who wants to help you walk out of here." "What's your name?" The man hesitated. Then, quietly, "Marcus." Harold nodded. "Marcus. That's a good name. Strong. You live around here." "Marcus?" The man didn't answer, but Harold could see the calculation in his eyes. The uncertainty. And uncertainty was good. Uncertainty meant the person was still thinking, still weighing options. Outside, police were arriving. Silent approach. No sirens. Beth had given them the basic information. 3 armed suspects. Approximately 20 customers in the store. 1 employee being held at gunpoint in electronics. Officers set up a perimeter, prepared for the worst. And then they got a call from Beth. The greeter is talking to one of them. The greeter? An old guy named Harold. is sitting on the floor having a conversation with one of the gunmen. The tactical commander frowned. Is he trained? I don't know, Beth said, but is really calm. Inside, Harold was still talking. Marcus, he said, I need to ask you something important. Is anyone hurt? Marcus shook his head. Good. That's really good. That means we still have options. We? Yeah, Harold said. We, you, me, your friends. Right now, everyone's scared, but everyone's okay. That's the best possible situation. But it won't stay that way if someone makes a scared decision. You know what I mean? Marcus's hand was still shaking. We just need the money. Then we leave. Harold nodded. Okay, how much do you need? What? How much money do you need? Marcus blinked. I don't know. As much as we can get. Harold kept his voice soft. See, that's the problem with as much as we can get. Because it's never enough. There's always more. And more takes time. And time is what you don't have. Marcus looked at him. What are you saying? I'm saying you probably came here with a number in mind. An amount that would solve a problem. A debt. A bill. Something specific. Am I right? Marcus didn't answer. So here's what I think, Harold continued. I think you and your friends are in trouble. Real trouble. The kind that feels like there's no way out. And someone convinced you this was the solution. But it's not. Because even if you get the money, you can't spend it. Every bill will be marked. Every camera in this store has your face. You're smart enough to know that. So what's the real plan here? Marcus. The young man's shoulders sagged slightly. We just needed. His voice broke. We just needed help. Harold's expression softened. Then let me help you. The right way. Marcus looked at him. You a greeter. Yeah, Harold said. But I used to do something else. And that something else taught me how to fix problems like this. One of the tactical officers, listening through a bug Beth had activated on the store's PA system, keyed his radio. Who is this guy? Dispatch ran Harold Morrison's name, pulled his file, and the tactical commander's eyes widened. FBI, 22 years. Crisis Negotiation Unit. He went back on the radio. Do not breach. Repeat. Do not breach. Let him work. Inside, Harold was still talking. Marcus, I know you don't want to hurt anyone. And I know you didn't come here to throw your life away. So let's figure this out together. What do you need? Marcus's voice was barely a whisper. My brother. He owes money. Bad people. They said if he doesn't pay by Friday, they'll. He couldn't finish. Harold nodded. How much? 15,000. Harold was quiet for a moment. Then he said, Okay, that's a lot, but it's not worth your life, or your freedom, or someone else's life. You know that, right? Marcus's eyes filled with tears. I don't know what else to do. Harold spoke gently. First, you put the gun down. Not on the floor, not yet. Just lower it. Show me you're ready to think instead of react. Marcus hesitated. Then slowly, he lowered the weapon. Good, Harold said. That took courage. Now, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to help you fix this. But we need to do it the right way. Your friends, where are they? Electronics. Registers. Are they as scared as you? Marcus nodded. We are not criminals. We are just desperate, Harold finished. I know, and desperate people make mistakes. But we can stop the mistakes right now. Will you trust me? Marcus looked at him for a long moment, then nodded. Harold keyed his vest radio. Beth, you there? A voice came through immediately. I'm here, Harold. Tell the officers outside that one subject is ready to cooperate. No sudden moves. We are going to do this slowly. Copy. Marcus, Harold said. I need you to call your friends. Tell them to stop. Tell them you're putting your gun down, and they should too. And then we walk out together. What about my brother? Harold said quietly, I'll make some calls. I still know people. People who can help with situations like this. But first, we all need to walk out of here alive. Understand. Marcus's hands were shaking as he pulled out his phone. Called his partners. The conversation was brief. Tense. But 30 seconds later, both men in the store lowered their weapons. Harold stood slowly, his knees protesting. He placed a hand on Marcus's shoulder. You just made the hardest decision of your life. And the right one. Together, they walked to the entrance. The other two men joined them. Harold stayed between them and the door, talking quietly, keeping them calm. Outside, tactical officers moved into position, but they didn't rush, didn't escalate. They let Harold set the pace. One by one, the three men walked out, hands visible, weapons left inside. No shots fired, no one hurt. The standoff had lasted 43 minutes. Harold Morrison stood by the entrance as officers handcuffed the three suspects. He watched Marcus being led to a patrol car, watched the young man look back once, mouth the words "thank you." Harold nodded, then turned and walked back inside. Beth met him at the door. Her face was pale. "Harold, that was..." "I know," he said quietly. She stared at him. "FBI? Long time ago. Why didn't you tell anyone?" Harold shrugged. Didn't seem relevant. Beth laughed. It was slightly hysterical. "Didn't seem. You just talked down three armed robbers like you were discussing the weather." Harold smiled faintly. "That's the job. Make it boring. If it's exciting, you've already failed." The tactical commander approached. Older man, weathered face. "Mr. Morrison?" "Harold." The commander extended his hand. "Commander Wells, I read your file. Impressive career." Harold shook his hand. "Thank you." Wells stuttered him. "You know, we could use someone like you. Consultant. Training. We've got young negotiators who could learn from you." Harold considered it, then shook his head. "I'm retired." Wells smiled. "You just negotiated a hostage situation in a Walmart. That's not retired." Harold looked at the store, at the customers being escorted out, at the employees giving statements. "That was just helping," he said. Wells handed him a card. "If you change your mind." Harold pocketed it. "Thanks." Over the next weeks, the story spread. Local news covered it. National outlets picked it up. FBI negotiator working as Walmart greeter stops armed robbery. Harold declined every interview request. Didn't want the attention. Didn't want the recognition. But he couldn't avoid the change in how people saw him. Customers who used to rush past now stopped to thank him. Employees asked questions, wanted to know about his career, wanted to hear stories. Harold answered when asked, but mostly he just went back to work. "Good morning. Welcome to Walmart. Have a great day." One morning, 3 weeks after the incident, a young woman approached him. She was in her 20s, nervous. "Excuse me, are you Harold Morrison?" He nodded. The woman's eyes filled with tears. "I'm Marcus's sister." Harold's expression softened. "How is he?" "He's okay. Scared, but okay." She paused. "You told me what you said to him, about helping with my brother's death." Harold remembered. "I made some calls. Connected your family with some resources. People who help with situations like yours. Did they reach out?" The woman nodded. "They did. They are working with us. With the people my brother owed. Finding a solution." Harold smiled. "Good. That's good." The woman wiped her eyes. "Marcus said you saved his life. Not just that day, but really saved it. Because you made him stop. Made him think." Harold said gently, "He saved his own life. I just reminded him he had a choice." She pulled an envelope from a purse. "He wanted me to give you this." Harold opened it. Inside was a handwritten letter. 3 pages. Marcus's story. His gratitude. His promise to do better. Harold read it standing there, then folded it carefully and put it in his pocket. "Tell him I'm proud of him. Tell him the hard part isn't what happened that day. It's every day after. Every choice to do the right thing even when it's difficult. That's where real courage lives." The woman nodded. "Thank you, Mr. Morrison." for seeing us as people, not just criminals. Harold met her eyes. Everyone's a person first. Everything else is just circumstances. After she left, Harold stood by the entrance and watched the morning shoppers arrive. Families, workers, students, regular people living regular lives. Most of them would never face a crisis, never need negotiation skills, never stand between life and death. But some would. And on that day, Harold hoped they'd remember that the most powerful weapon in any crisis isn't a gun or badge. It's words. Calm words. Patient words. Words that remind scared people that they still have choices. That morning, Beth pulled Harold aside. Corporate wants to give you an award. Ceremony. Media. The whole thing. Harold shook his head. I don't want an award. She smiled. I told them you'd say that. So they're doing something else. What? Funded a crisis intervention program for employees and customers. Mental health resources. Financial counseling. Conflict de-escalation training. In your name. Harold was quiet for a moment. That's good. That helps people. That's the point, Beth said. You showed us that prevention is better than reaction. That listening is stronger than force. That sometimes the most important person in a crisis is the one who knows how to stay calm. She paused. You could teach this, share what you know. Harold considered it, then said, maybe, but right now, I'm happy where I am. At the door. Yeah, at the door. Saying hello, watching people, being present. It's simple work, but it matters. Beth nodded. It does. You make people feel welcome, safe, seen. Harold smiled. That's all any of us really want, to be seen. Months passed. Harold continued his work, continued greeting customers, continued being the presence at the door that most people still didn't notice. But some did. The young employee from electronics, the one who'd had a gun pointed at him, always made a point to say good morning. The cashiers waved when he arrived. Regular customers learned his name, and occasionally, when someone looked stressed or scared or overwhelmed, Harold would pause. Offer a kind word. Ask if they were okay. Most of the time, they said yes. But sometimes they didn't. And when they opened up, Harold listened. Because he knew that crises didn't always announce themselves with guns and demands. Sometimes it came quietly, slowly, building over time. And sometimes, all it took to prevent a tragedy was someone willing to pay attention, to see the signs, to offer help before help became rescue. One afternoon, a middle-aged man stood by the entrance. Not shopping, just standing, staring at nothing. Harold approached gently. You okay, friend? The man looked at him, surprised to be noticed. I don't know. Harold nodded. That's honest. Want to talk about it? The man hesitated. Then, quietly, I lost my job. Can't pay my bills. Don't know what to do. Harold gestured to a bench near the entrance. Let's sit for a minute. They sat and Harold listened. Not fixing, not solving, just listening. And when the man finished, Harold said, That's a heavy load. But you're still here, still standing. That takes strength. The man shook his head. Doesn't feel like strength. Harold said gently, Strength isn't not being scared. It's being scared and still getting up in the morning. Still looking for solutions. Still talking instead of disappearing. The man was quiet, then asked, What do I do? Harold pulled out a card. Local resource center. Financial counseling. Job placement. They helped a friend of mine. They can help you. The man took the card. Thank you. You didn't have to. Harold smiled. Yes, I did. Because someone helped me once. And the only way to repay that is to help someone else. The man left. Harold never learned his name. Never saw him again. But 2 months later, a thank you card arrived at the store. Anonymous. But Harold knew. Small acts. Quiet interventions. Moments that most people would never hear about. That's where Harold Morrison lived now, not in headlines or wards, but in the space between crisis and calm, between despair and hope, between being invisible and being exactly what someone needed. And every morning, he stood by the entrance, blue vest 2 sizes too large, smile ready. Good morning. Welcome to Walmart. Have a great day. Most people still rush past, still didn't notice. And that was okay, because the ones who needed to notice did. So now I ask you, have you ever walked past someone without really seeing them? Have you ever assumed that someone's job defined their worth? Have you ever needed help and found it in the last place you expected? Write about it in the comments. Share what you learned, because stories like Harold remind us that expertise doesn't need a title, that experience doesn't require recognition, and that sometimes the most qualified person to handle a crisis is the one standing quietly by the door, saying good morning to people who don't say it back. Thank you for watching. If this story moved you, subscribe, share it. Help us honor the people who use their gifts in service of others, who stay calm when others panic, who see people, not problems. We'll see you in the next one. And until then, look closer, listen better, because the person you're ignoring might be exactly who you need.